Hi everyone, Andrew Schultz, Principal Broker of Own Buffalo Inc. here. I wanted to reach out today. It's Friday, March 27th, 2020. It's about 4:15 in the afternoon here in Buffalo. I wanted to reach out and update you with regards to the stimulus package, which is making its way through legislature right now. It's been signed by the House and the Senate and is now on President Trump's desk for approval. We do expect this is going to be signed into law relatively quickly. Could be a couple hours, could be by the end of the weekend, but we do expect that this stimulus package is going to be the package that's ultimately passed. I wanted to bring you a little bit of information about that stimulus package and how it may impact you as a property owner, as a landlord. I will start the video by saying I'm not an attorney and I'm not an accountant, and I strongly recommend that you talk to yours before you take the advice of anybody who you see talking to you in a YouTube video. And there's a lot of people out there talking in YouTube videos right now. Talk to your lawyer, talk to your accountant before you act on any of the information in the video. So I want to start with the good news. I have had a couple of clients reach out to me and ask about Section 8 rents. I've seen nothing that indicates that there will be any delay in Section 8 rents. In fact, now more than ever, they want Section 8 rents to be delivered on time because that prevents Section 8 tenants from being displaced from their homes. And really, that's the goal of this, or at least part of the goal of this stimulus package. So Section 8 rents, I've heard nothing to indicate that there's going to be any interruption with any Section 8 rents or anything like that. Should be good to go with that regard. A little bit more good. We're going to start by talking about property owners that have 1 to 4 unit properties. And this is the unit count per property, not the overall unit count. So if you have 10 units, but they're all duplexes, then this would apply to you just the same as if you had a 1, 2, 3, or 4 family home all under one roof. So this is for 1 to 4 unit buildings. There is a mortgage forbearance that's going to be made available. This applies to any federally backed loan. So if you have a VA loan, FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, a USDA-backed loan, et cetera, if your loan has any kind of federal backing, you qualify for this mortgage forbearance. You don't have to be current on your mortgage payments, and you can request a 180-day forbearance of your mortgage payments. You can also request an extension of 180 days, but you need to make that request before the end of your first 180-day period. So that's important to make note of. If you do decide to request the forbearance, make sure that you're putting a note on your calendar to request that additional assistance if you still need it down the road. My understanding is there's no documentation being required to prove financial difficulty due to the COVID-19 crisis. You can basically call your mortgage provider, your mortgage servicer, and just request this. Banks cannot charge interest or late fees or initiate or continue a foreclosure on you during this period, which is incredibly helpful. I mean, no interest, no late fees. They can't start or continue any foreclosure action. Essentially, what they're going to do is just take those payments and tack them onto the back end of the mortgage note. So they're not going to disappear. You're still paying it, but it moves the interest to the back end of the loan, which might help you if you find yourself in a bind currently. And then the foreclosure moratorium began on March 18th, and that's valid for 60 days. So keep that in mind as well. So just to recap that, on the 1 to 4 unit properties, you can get up to 180 days plus an additional 180 days. You just have to request it from your mortgage servicer, and that is on any loan that has a federal backing. On multi-unit properties, so this would be a 5+ unit property. If your mortgage payments are current as of February 1st, 2020, you can request a 30-day forbearance on your mortgage. You can then request up to 2 more 30-day forbearances for a total length of forbearance of 90 days. Outside of that, everything appears to be the same as the 1 to 4 units. So if you do have a multifamily, a 5-unit or more multifamily, you don't get quite as long as a forbearance as what the smaller properties do, but you do still have an option out there. And again, that applies to any of those federally backed loan programs that we were talking about. Reach out to your mortgage servicer and they should be able to tell you more on that. So you do have to be current as of February 1st if you have a multifamily mortgage, and the forbearance portion is shorter. The length of time of that forbearance is shorter, but that is an option out there. So let's talk about the not so good. So this is some of the stuff that was passed in the stimulus package, and I shouldn't even say not so good, because a lot of this, if you have one, you're going to have the other, and that's what this is leading in. There is an eviction moratorium. If you qualify for any kind of a mortgage forbearance, then you are also covered by this eviction moratorium. So that's going to be important to note. There's a 120-day moratorium on evictions. We can't initiate an eviction, we can't continue an eviction, and we cannot complete an eviction during this time. So that's a 120-day period. After the 120-day period expires, we can issue a late notice. By federal law, the late notice is now 30 days. So that tenant has 30 days to catch up on any balance that's owed. And then after that, you can file the eviction. So keep in mind that you're talking about a 4-month period where we have no evictions, plus another 1-month period where you might not be able to, or you won't be able to file your eviction because you'll be out on an active late rent notice, essentially. So you will have a time here where we're not able to file evictions. The moratorium only deals with evictions as a result of rent delinquency. Other lease violations are still evictable, but as you know, in New York State, it's become increasingly more difficult to evict for a non-rent related reason. We do have to give, I don't remember the exact length of time, but we have to give a certain amount of time to our tenant to make corrections for any sort of non-rent related issues with regards to lease, any lease violations. There's a time frame that they have that they can work within, and then you could file an eviction if they fail to rectify the lease violation at that point, but we're a little ahead of ourselves on that. So the moratorium only deals with rent. If there are other outstanding violations of the lease, too many occupants or drug use, something like that, those are still evictable during this period. Credit bureau reporting. We cannot report a tenant as delinquent during this time frame if the tenant has a payment plan in place, as long as they're sticking to that payment plan. For most of our clients, this won't matter because we take care of all the credit bureau reporting on your behalf anyway. We do report positive and negative data to the credit bureaus when tenants pay rent or don't pay rent. But during this period of time, if they have an established payment plan, and all of our payment plans are going to be in writing, excuse me, then you will not be able to report to the credit bureaus during that time frame. So we're working with our software vendor on the back end to make sure that they're staying in compliance with that, to keep us in compliance, to keep you in compliance. There's also no late fees to tenants in the next 120 days while we're under that moratorium. So we're working with our software vendor on that as well. We have a blanket policy that automatically applies late fees at a certain point in the month. We ask them to take that out for the time being so that we can be compliant and, again, keep you compliant during all of this. Keep in mind, you must continue to pay your other expenses during this time. The government still expects their taxes. Your insurance company is still going to want your insurance premium. You're still going to have to upkeep the property, and you're still going to be paying for management. Your warranty of habitability during this time is not waived. It's still in place. You still have to maintain the apartments to ensure that the tenants are living in safe homes during this. Even if they're not paying rent, you still have that obligation that you do need to keep the home safe and secure for that tenant. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you have some sort of plan in place in the event that there are expenses that come up during this time frame to make sure that you're covered from that regard. We do have a little bit more good. So we had talked about for our clients that already have mortgages on their properties and things like that, if you have a property that you don't have a mortgage on, or actually even if you have properties that have mortgages, if you have the properties inside of a corporate entity, such as an LLC, a C Corp, an S Corp, I don't know if you'll still be able to get these SBA loans as an individual, even if you have several properties, but there are going to be a lot of SBA loans available. I'm not going to get into all of the details as to what's available for SBA loans. You could certainly find that information on their website, which is, I believe, sba.gov. There's an opportunity here to pick up funds for operating capital and things like that if you find yourself in a position where you need those funds. So keep that in mind. There will also be a lot of refinance programs that will become available as part of this stimulus package. now might be an excellent time to consider refinancing your property if you have a mortgage, or putting some financing on your property and pulling equity out if you're not financed already. If you need a connection to a mortgage professional, let me know. We have several that we work with that they're used to our systems and how we work when they request information such as rent rolls and leases and things like that. We have some guys that we've worked with in the past that work very well with property managers and investors to make sure that everybody's goals are met. So if you do need a connection to a mortgage professional, feel free to let me know. And if this is something that you're considering, start getting your paperwork together now. Get your last 3 years of tax records together, your title search, which is going to look like a legal size document. It'll probably have some kind of a colored backing paper on it. If you've ever watched Law and Order, it almost looks like you're getting served the blue service summons. It might look something similar to that, but what it is the lineage of your property. It traces the ownership of your property all the way back to when it was originally surveyed. You're also going to need your land survey. That's going to look like an overhead map of your property. You can get these replaced, but it's very expensive to do so. If you have them already, it's much cheaper to get them updated. So if you're thinking about possibly refinancing or putting financing on the property to pull some equity out, you're going to need those documents. Start gathering that stuff up now. Last 3 years of tax records, your title search, and your land survey. We're pretty much at the end of the video here. I do want to remind you again, I'm not an attorney and I'm not an accountant. I'm a property manager. I'm a real estate broker. I've read through a chunk of the bill. I've also read several summary websites from other sources that have compiled information together. The information that I'm conveying is the information as I have it to the best of my knowledge. I'm not saying that everything in here is 100% accurate. That's why you need to speak to your attorney or your accountant before you take any of this advice or make any moves during this situation. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. My office number is 716-608-3200. You can also reach me at hello@ownbuffalo.com. And again, thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. We do appreciate it. And then if you do have the questions, please feel free to reach out. Have a good weekend, stay safe, and we'll update you again sometime next week.